if you're looking to add that left-handed hitting outfielder and someone who can usurp playing time at first base from Abreu and upgrade you defensively, both in the outfield and first base, the best guy available is Cody Bellinger. And I don't want to, never. The Astros acquired, and Astros fans rooted for Roberto Osuna. So spare me any holier-than-thou stuff. Cody Bellinger's really good. He's a free agent to be. He's been every bit as good as Kyle Tucker this year, but he plays Gold Glove outfield and Gold Glove first base. And because he's a rental, you could still get outbid, but the price is not going to be nearly as high as it would be for someone younger, multi-year. If the Cubs put Bellinger in play, and what does Dana Brown care about Astros fans booing a guy because of 2017 and 2018? That's a guy who'd make eminent sense for the Astros, and I'd love the theater of it.
Fans booed. Bryce Matthews after getting drafted? So it's just they're going to boo.
People booed Beltran here for a decade, and then when he came back. So get over it, people. If they trade for Cody Bellinger, if you're an Astros fan, you should be excited. He's better than a lot of what you're playing now.
But in fairness, though, Roberto Osuna never called the hometown team cheaters. But I guess what does it take to get you said a great name right there is Marcus Stroman. I think that's a name that really helps fortify the starting rotation for Houston. We've talked about it. Look, Fromber's basically your only sure thing right now. You talked about the struggles that Brown has had. Javier got skipped in the rotation to take him back to the lab and, try to figure out what's going on with his mechanics. Urquidy got hurt early, and we haven't seen him back. We've mentioned it here several times. He was carrying a 5+ ERA when he went down, so he's no sure thing. You do have JP France, who's looked nice. It's been a great story, but you do have to wonder when he hits the rookie wall, or if he does hit the rookie wall, when that happens. So it does really sound like they need a frontline starter. Can they get away with adding maybe somebody who's not a Marcus Stroman? Can they get away with adding someone who's maybe, your number 3 or 4, because that may be just as important heading down the stretch for them?
Well, yeah. When we talk about how does Dana not give up too much but still improve the roster, well, we haven't seen him do anything with the Astros, but if we look at some of these deals recently with Click, well, we look at the Miles Straw trade where they traded an active player off their roster instead of a prospect in that deal. And then we look at Abraham Toro going over to the Mariners in that trade, another active player on your roster, not a prospect. So maybe it's a Corey Julks type player or a Chas McCormick or a Jake Myers. I'm not saying those guys are going to get you a frontline starter, but if they make one of these smaller deals like we've seen the Astros do in the past few years, I could see them using some of their depth with some of these outfielders to maybe get something done. I'd like to see somebody like Blake Snell or Stroman. I don't know if they'll have, enough to go get it done, and other teams have more to give, as Charlie said. So we'll see. I imagine they're going to try and wait and see what the deal is with Christian Javier. That's such a big piece of the puzzle. You got to know what you have with him. So I'm sure that's going to be a big focus of Dana, is getting him fixed.
You can stay in Chicago with Stroman, go to the South Side. The White Sox are dead in the water. Lucas Giolito's a free agent after the year. Again, a whole bunch of teams can just come over the top with what the Astros offer. Dylan Cease has another year of control, meaning the price is going to be higher for him. I'd be shocked if the Astros had the package that could win on that. So we'll just see Dana Brown the first time sitting in the saddle actually making the trades. He could opt to go with a pat hand, thinking that Jordan and Altuve, that takes care of the offense, and that among Javier, Brown, Urquidy, crossed fingers, rabbit feet, 4-leaf clovers, that you have enough to get it done. Because while we're obviously Astro-centric on this, and this is where who makes the big moves at the deadline can swing things, right? The Yankees offense is a disaster. Right? Aaron Judge has missed more games this year than Jordan has. The Yankees have been harder hit in their starting rotation by injuries than the Astros have. So have the Rays, who've drifted back to earth, but obviously are still going to be a playoff team. But the Orioles are just oozing young talent in their lineup. It blows away what the Astros have as a lineup right now, and they're still calling up guys from the minor leagues. Yeah. Do they boldly try to add starting pitching where they're below the middle of the pack, but still 4 games ahead of the Astros starting the second half. I think the Mariners announced their presence, making the AL West a 3-team race, quite conceivably. They have the best-looking starting pitching relative to the Astros and Rangers right now. If they aggressively can figure out how to add a bat or two to their lineup, right? They're 5-2 against the Astros this year. If you get into a tiebreaker situation, right? The Astros are 4-3 over the Rangers. I mean, the Astros are only 2 games ahead of the Red Sox, who are last place in the American League East. It makes for, I guess, a more stressful second half than Astros fans are accustomed to. But, you look at the wild card, and I'm not going to say the Orioles are a cinch and how all those young guys handle September pressure if it gets to that. But you have the Orioles, the Blue Jays, who've underachieved. Well, their record's the same as the Astros. The Yankees, the Red Sox, and then the Rangers and conceivably the Mariners. So that's a whole bunch of teams, right? The Astros fighting a 2-front war within 2 games in the division, but only 1 game ahead of missing the playoffs entirely. So who can make the true impact move at the deadline? The odds don't favor the Astros pulling it off, but at least the Astros have hope with some internal solutions. And boy, Jordan and Jose better stay healthy.
And the theme of internal solutions, and maybe something that doesn't require a trade, let me pitch an idea. John Singleton. For those that don't remember, he originally came to the Astros via the Hunter Pence trade, but he had a love affair with weed that basically got and kind of derailed his career. We're not going to hold that against him, though, really. And what a difference a few years makes when there's states with dispensaries on every corner now. But how about it? He's not on the 40-man. He has no options. So this is, if you're going to pull the trigger on this, somebody's going to be unemployed out of it. And, you don't have any, it's make or break for him on the roster because you don't have any options. But what do you say, John Singleton?
I think congrats to John Singleton overcoming the serial pot problems, also alcoholism, 31 years old now, played a couple of seasons in Mexico, but that's the end of the road where I'm concerned. Right? Signed with the Brewers, showed up in the major leagues. He went 3 for 29 there. He's just never shown an ability to put the bat on the ball competently at the major league level. Years ago, when he was younger with quicker reflexes, with whatever personal demons he was battling, his career batting average at the big league level is 166. I can't see him having anything material of value to add.
Yeah, I mean, the sample size is so small with him. I think it's at like 13 games or something like that. But the guy I would consider down there, what about Justin Dearden? I mean, we talked about him before the season started. Maybe he could make the roster. Well, we check on him now. He's hitting 276 and 834 OPS, 9 home runs. So he's played a lot of center field, something the Astros might be able to use. And he's that left-handed bat that Dana Brown covets. If you're looking inside the organization, maybe he could be somebody to give a shot.
And it sure does seem like it should come from inside the organization from a bat, just because once Jordan's back, and assuming he stays back, you're not going to have that many places for an additional bat. We've talked about what happens to Yiner when Jordan comes down or comes back up, and should I mean all the planets align and Michael Brantley comes back from the dead. Assuming he, if he needs a spot, then you're really in a squeeze for spaces. So I think it probably helps if that answer for the bat does come internally, just because it really seems like they should really put all their eggs in the pitching basket, right? That really does seem to be the more pressing need. Am I right?
Yeah. And
yes.
Quickly, I would just make the argument that if you put Yiner in the catcher spot, you may not have to trade for a bat.
Well, that's not going to happen.
And the Astros are in a bigger picture, a potentially very perilous spot here. They're clearly not a great team anymore, right? Even with Jordan and Jose Altuve back, the pitching does not have the characteristics of greatness, right? Fromber has been an absolute beast. Pity that sensibly he was ruled out from starting in the All-Star game. But Fromber Valdez this year isn't anywhere close to what Justin Verlander was last year. And so then the trickle down, right? The Astros' number 1 starter, not as good as last year's number 1 starter. Ditto number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, the bullpen. So there's decline there. You have some age in the lineup and contract questions moving forward. So Dana Brown, right, whose job is the general manager, and he's the first-year guy here. I mean, very, very respectful of all the Astros have accomplished in this platinum era of Astros baseball, but not specifically beholden to individuals involved. Right? What kind of course is Jim Crane going to chart in terms of payroll looking forward? But top to bottom right now, organizationally, no one would take the Astros over the Texas Rangers. Right? The Seattle Mariners still have some offensive questions. But just in the draft on Sunday, right, the Mariners added 3 prospects better than the Astros' number 1 guy that they drafted. The Rangers added one of the 4 supposed can't-miss offensive players in this draft. And Wyatt Langford, who joins another elite outfield prospect that they have, and all kinds of young pitching coming on the horizon. And, they have Seager and Semien as their Altuve and Bregman. So, as you look at the Astros, who could recover and wind up winning the World Series this year, but highly probably not, but they could. But 2024 and beyond, right, the cracks in foundation are evident, right, that the Astros' days as the dominant superpower of the American League West are probably over.
Well, there's only so many times you can be buyers at the deadline and be in win now mode. That bill eventually comes due. When you do mortgage your future, that bill does come due. That's why we've said on this podcast many times, enjoy it while it lasts. This is very rare. These types of runs of dominance and excellence are super rare. What the Astros have been able to experience over the last 6 seasons have been nothing short but amazing. And so there does seem to be a shot clock on it. And when it does end, it shouldn't take away from the run that they just experienced.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.